Hello everyone, it's the Percy Chaser. Welcome to another one of my videos. If you've been on the corner of Sea Road in Cleethorpes near the pier, you may have seen a blue plaque on the wall commemorating Freddie Frinton. But who was Freddie Frinton? Well, he was an entertainer, a star of the stage and later of TV. And this is his story. Freddie Frinton was born Frederick Bitterner on the 17th of January 1909 and not 1908 as it says on the plaque. He was born in Haynes Avenue in Grimsby, just over 2 miles from where his plaque is situated, and he was the son of unmarried parents. His mother was a seamstress called Florence Elizabeth Kew, whilst his father, Frederick Bitterner, was proprietor of the Baltic Boot Store on Cleethorpes Road. Unfortunately, neither Florence nor Frederick Sr. wanted to parent the young Freddie, and as a result he was brought up by foster parents, firstly on Barcroft Street in Cleethorpes, and then later on he moved in with the daughter of the family and her husband at an address which doesn't seem to have been recorded. When he left school, Freddie had a succession of menial jobs at local factories, the last and best known of which was at a fish processing works on Grimsby docks. Here he developed a reputation for making his colleagues laugh. The management weren't impressed, they didn't want their employees to have fun at work, and the final straw came when one of the managers walked in and found Freddie in the middle of a dance routine, as a result of which he was sacked. Down but not out, Freddie decided to try his hand at becoming an entertainer. He spent a couple of years on the pubs and clubs circuit, firstly as part of an outfit called the Jolly Nibs, where he was a singer, before moving on to perform at an open-air beach stage in Cleethorpes, just near to where his plaque is located. After around 2 years of local performances, he joined a revue, in other words a travelling group of entertainers who went around Great Britain playing at various theatres and music halls. He made a favourable impression, and he also got a reputation as a formidable pantomime dame, a role he played each year. In 1939 he did his first work for the radio. Whilst living with the foster parents, Freddie had started to use the name Freddie Hargate, and this became his first stage name. He soon changed it to Freddie Fraser, but after a short time he changed it again to the more Southern England sounding Freddie Frinton. I'm guessing this was named after Frinton-on-Sea, the seaside resort in Essex, but that is only an educated guess. In the Second World War, Freddie was called up and became part of Stars in Battle Dress, who were charged with entertaining the troops. On the 1942 programme he was listed as Lance Bombardier Freddie Frinton. He performed alongside various other stars in waiting, including Kenneth Connor, who went on to appear in a lot of the Carry On films, and also found fame playing Monsieur Alphonse in the TV sitcom Allo Allo in the 1980s. And he also worked alongside the late great Tony Hancock. After the war, Freddie returned to the theatres and music halls, by now on the bill in his own right. As well as summer seasons and pantomimes, he found time to appear in several movies, including Penny Points to Paradise and Make Mine Mink. Among his stage characters was a drunk waving a broken cigarette and uttering the catchphrase, "Good evening, Ossifer," and a heavy-drinking butler in a sketch entitled Dinner for One, to which we'll return later. There were a number of idiosyncrasies and contradictions with Freddie Frinton. Despite being Grimsby born and bred, he tended to perform his act in a Lancastrian accent, causing people to wrongly believe that he was from the northwest of England. And while some of his best-known characters were drunks, Freddie himself was teetotal. The 1950s were not kind to the theatre and music hall scene. As the decade progressed, more families got their own television sets and preferred staying in watching TV to going out. Venues closed at an alarming rate, and artists found themselves chasing a rapidly dwindling amount of work. As well as being a great entertainer, Freddie was an astute businessman. He'd invested much of the money he earned in property, both houses and shops, which he rented out so that he had a steady income away from the vagaries of show business. At the end of the 1950s, he seriously contemplated giving up entertainment and running a grocery shop in Sussex instead. Luckily, at the 11th hour, he received a telephone call from his friend and fellow entertainer Arthur Haynes, who had his own television show, asking Freddie to appear as a regular member of the cast of the show, playing his popular drunk character. The television exposure led firstly to Freddie being much in demand for stage work, and then to his being offered a role alongside Thora Hird in the television sitcom Meet the Wife. Although it has since faded into obscurity, Meet the Wife was extremely popular. It ran for 5 series and either 38, 39 or 40 episodes, depending on which source you believe. It ended only because Thora Hird wished to pursue other projects. Freddie Frinton continued to work on stage and was in discussions regarding more TV work when his health declined suddenly and he suffered a heart attack whilst appearing in Bournemouth. He died shortly afterwards in London on the 16th of October 1968, aged 59. But that is not the end of his story. As mentioned earlier, Freddie frequently performed a sketch entitled Dinner for One on the stage. The sketch was written by Laurie Wiley, apparently in the 1920s, although the first reference to it being performed is in 1934. Freddie Frinton first performed the routine in the early 1940s, and in 1945 he changed it, modifying some aspects and adding others. Because it wasn't his sketch, Freddie had to pay royalties to perform it. The premise of the routine is that an elderly aristocratic lady, Miss Sophie, is celebrating her 90th birthday by inviting her 4 closest friends to dinner. The problem is that her friends have all long since passed away. Nevertheless, Miss Sophie's butler, James, played by Freddie Frinton, sets 5 places at the table. When Miss Sophie orders each course, she gives James instructions as to which alcoholic drink should be served with it, and he circles the table, filling up all of the glasses. He then has to drink a toast to Miss Sophie from each of the guests' glasses whilst pretending to be them. Due to the amount of alcohol he is consuming, James becomes steadily more inebriated as the evening wears on and begins stumbling and slurring his words, repeatedly tripping over the head of a tiger skin rug that's on the floor. It is a very funny sketch. It's available on YouTube and I'll put a link to it in the description to this video. A number of myths have grown up regarding Freddie Frinton and Dinner for One, most of which are presented as fact in various sources. The first of the myths is that he bought the rights to the sketch in 1951. This is incorrect. He did buy the rights, but not until 1967, the purchase being announced in The Stage in May of that year. Laurie Wiley died in 1951, and this is probably the source of the inaccuracy. Presumably the royalties were payable to his estate or heirs afterwards. As Freddie Frinton had been performing the routine for a number of years and intended to continue performing it, and as he'd made changes to it as well, he was able to negotiate a deal to pay only a token amount in royalties, and this removed any urgency to actually acquire the rights. Critics in the 1950s grumbled that Freddie shoehorned the sketch into everything he did, but it's truer to say that audiences expected to see it, and if Freddie failed to perform it at some point during the show, they felt cheated. Freddie himself develops a love-hate relationship with Dinner for One. On the one hand, he liked that it was so popular with the audiences and that it brought him a good income, but on the other, he became rather fed up of performing it. In 1960, 2 Italian producers saw Freddie performing Dinner for One on stage in Blackpool. They were impressed and persuaded him to film it for Italian TV, which, after some negotiation, he did. The second myth is that there was only one TV recording of the sketch. There were in fact 5, as we will see, all made for foreign stations. Freddie refused to record the routine for British television as he was still performing it on stage and didn't want to spoil it for the theatre audiences. In December 1961, Freddie, by now always accompanied by May Warden playing the role of Miss Sophie, recorded Dinner for One for the German television station Norddeutsche Rundfunk, or NDR for short. Because of his war service, Freddie was mistrustful of German people, and no doubt many German people who had lived through the war were mistrustful of the British, and as such he agreed to film the sketch only if it was broadcast in English with no subtitles. This did not matter too much, as a lot of the comedy is physical and so it's not fully necessary to understand the limited dialogue. Dinner for One was well received, so much so that in April 1963 Freddie Frinton and May Warden found themselves in Switzerland, recording it for Swiss television. Shortly after, the pair returned to Germany, firstly to perform the sketch in a televised live show in Hamburg, and then to do a higher quality recording, the latter first being broadcast on June 8, 1963. It is this recording that continues to be shown to this day, as we shall see. So as we've seen, there were 5 recordings done for various international markets. The next myth is that Dinner for One was never shown on British television during Freddie's lifetime. It was, albeit accidentally. The Swiss version mentioned earlier had become so popular that it was chosen as the country's Golden Rose of Montreux Festival entry for 1963. The BBC decided to show all of the festival's international entries and duly broadcast the Swiss one on the 9th of June 1963, only realising afterwards that it shouldn't have done. At the time of his death, Freddie was planning to return to Germany to film Dinner for One in colour, but sadly this was not to be. As I said earlier, the problem with these myths is that they are often presented as fact, and the final one is perpetuated on the blue plaque, namely that the sketch has been shown on German TV every year since 1963. This is not quite true. As I've already said, it was broadcast first on June 8, 1963. In the years that followed, it was shown sporadically, but in 1972 it was dusted off and broadcast on New Year's Eve. It was so popular on that occasion that it's been broadcast every year since then, so in other words, every year since 1972. and it's become part of Germany's New Year's Eve celebrations. Although broadcast in English, it's shown with a German language introduction by Heinz Piper. As well as in Germany, the sketch is shown on New Year's Eve in Sweden, Denmark, Austria, Finland, Switzerland, Estonia and Australia, and was on South African television for many years. In Norway, it's shown on the 23rd of December. In Germany alone, up to 18 million people tune in to watch Dinner for One each year. Dinner for One was eventually shown in the United Kingdom on the Grimsby local TV station Estuary TV in 2017, followed by broadcast on Sky Arts in 2018, but aside from that, British stations have been reluctant to show it. The upshot is that Freddie Frinton has followed Meet the Wife into obscurity in his home country. Very few of the people who see the blue plaque on the wall in Cleethorpes know who he was. And there is his final idiosyncrasy. In the United Kingdom, including in his hometown of Grimsby, Freddie Frinton is largely forgotten, yet in many countries around the world he is still a household name, a famous star of the small screen. His story, the Grimsby fish filler who made it to the stage and the television screen, is remarkable, and it's a fitting tribute that he should have a blue plaque dedicated to his achievements. The plaque does contain a couple of inaccuracies, as we've already said. However, we should be grateful that the effort has been made to remember Freddie Frinton close to where he began his career. As I filmed this video at the end of June in 2024, the area where the blue plaque is located is due for redevelopment. Indeed, there's hoardings around it at the moment, and it's to be hoped that the plaque is retained and displayed in a suitably prominent position in the future. I would like to thank the various dealers in memorabilia from whom I've purchased the photographs used in this video, and also Wikipedia, British Comedy Guide, IMDb and the Friends of Cleethorpes heritage site for information. Most of all, thank you to you all for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please click the like button so that more people can find it. To sign off, I'll quote from this signed photograph I've got in front of me. Cheers, Freddie.